It is 5:30 and time for our daily town hall here on Channel 2. Now, for the past couple of months, we've been taking this half hour to answer all of the questions that you've had about the coronavirus pandemic. This week, we are pivoting a bit.
Yeah, we're trying to have this important conversation about the unrest that is happening in our community and so many other places around the country, of course, following the death of George Floyd in Minneapolis more than a week ago. We want to try to help make sense of what's going on and discuss ways that we can try to help improve our community and make this a better and safer place to live.
Lieutenant Governor Kathy Hochul, though, is expected to address this from a state perspective, as well as provide more information on phase 2 of reopening Western New York, which started today, of course. And we're going to bring you her remarks just as soon as they begin. Well, before we get to our guests, we want to give you some more information about the state of emergency right now in Erie County and tonight's curfew.
It begins at 8 o'clock as far as the curfew and ends at 5 o'clock tomorrow morning. If you are essential personnel scheduled to work during these hours, you are exempt from the curfew. We got some details and the specific wording on this from the county executive. That means you can still report to work, but you should carry your work badge or some type of identification in case you are stopped by law enforcement. All right, now let's talk about all that's happening. A little bit later on, we're going to be joined by a young community activist to get her thoughts on all of this. But we first welcome Reverend Darius Pridgeon, the president of the Buffalo Common Council. Thank you, sir, for joining us here at 5:30 this evening.
Thank you for having me.
All righty. Reverend Pridgeon, I get to ask you the first question. I'd first like to get your take on the peaceful protests Saturday night that then turned violent. Were you surprised at what you saw happen? And secondly, what do you think of the mayor's decision to not put a curfew in place right away until things fully calm down?
Well, first of all, on the protest, I'm rather excited, to be very honest, to hear voices of people coming together to talk about reform in a positive way. I can't say I was totally surprised on the violence because we saw it across the country in some other time zones. And so I wasn't totally surprised, but disappointed that it occurred. But with that said, what I was encouraged about is that local people were telling people from outside of Buffalo to stop it. Don't break windows. Or else I think if it hadn't been for the local people and the people who really just wanted to protest and not tear up, I think we would have had a much worse situation on our hands. About the curfew and not deciding, this is a moving target, literally. You think you have intel on one thing and then something rises up. Yesterday's peaceful protest was not designed to be violent. Some things occurred, from what I'm told. Some people who were not even with the protest began to act out, but it was not designed to be violent. And with Saturday being so calm, I think the mayor made the decision that he thought was best for the city last night.
Reverend Pridgeon, we are looking at some video right now from last night. Some people in the community have questioned the amount of force that was used by police. Of course, today, Captain Jeff Rinaldo, Buffalo Police Commissioner Byron Lockwood, said that officers had objects thrown at them. They had ordered the crowd to leave many times. What do you make of what it devolved into last night from those people, many of whom we're told were not even part of the peaceful protest that had happened earlier in the day?
I mean, last night, some of the events were tragic, period. No excuse. And I'm not going to sit here and try to make an excuse for anything that happened illegal. It was this morning that I recognized that a whole community, that there are people in that community who got it. I jumped up, I put on my little painter's outfit to go out and thinking I was going to be one of 2 or 3 on Bailey to clean up, and it wasn't. I was met with people from that community to clean it up who did not cause that destruction. So I think that when you had what happened last night, and then you have responsible people who came out during the day, that it speaks a lot that neighborhood, this city is not simply out of control. That there are some adults, and it wasn't just adults on Bailey today. There were elected officials, there were homeowners, there were people from outside of the city who came back in. So last night was tragic, some of the events, but I don't think what I hope we never do is to paint the entire event as negative because of the actions, the negative actions of some.
Reverend, as an elected city leader and a pastoral leader in the African American community, what's your advice to this next generation of activists here in Buffalo who are concerned that their gatherings, might be hijacked from those perhaps outside the community and doing the looting and the setting fires and causing mayhem and really distracting from their message?
I think what's so important is that those of us who are a little bit more seasoned, those of us who have connections with young people who we know may be doing something wrong, even during protests, is we have to educate. We have to educate, that this country was founded, and actually some of the greatest movements came out of protests. However, they came out of educated protests. I'm meeting tomorrow with one of the protest leaders. I got reached out to. I was like, let's get together, let's talk, let's hear, so that she can educate me, I can educate her, and we can educate one another, because it's all about communication and making sure that we move forward. Tearing up your own city does not get you there. But I want to be clear. I know that the organizers of the protest did not have that in mind, at least the organizers of late. Some organizers, I don't know who they are, so it's very hard for me to address it. But from those who are from this area, I know that their hearts were in the right place and they just want to be heard. And this common council president is going to hear them.
Reverend Pridgeon, I want to just ask the control room real fast. I believe the Lieutenant Governor is coming out and is getting ready to speak. We have more questions for you, so if you can stand by for just a moment, we want to get back to you. But right now, let's listen in live to Lieutenant Governor Kathy Hochul addressing this from the state perspective.
Our local retailers as they start to reopen. The second point I'd like to address is the pain and suffering being felt by many in our country tonight. Sadly, it took another murder of an innocent Black man to force this national awakening about the disparities that exist between the white American dream and the Black American reality. We will not let this moment pass without long overdue systemic reforms to finally bring equality and justice for all. Since our founding fathers, the ability to protest and challenge society and government is one of the rights we cherish most. I will defend anyone's right to peacefully protest. But when that line is crossed in acts of violence and mindless destruction, those actions are criminal and must be stopped. No one has the right to destroy someone's life, business, or neighborhood, no matter your zip code. Violence provokes fear from the community and diminishes our human connection, our ability to empathize and understand and respect each other, and ultimately our ability to build a stronger, more just society. And so, where do we go from here? Today, I feel a profound sense of loss, wondering if that spirit that united us all during the worst pandemic in a century is now gone. But I say we can recapture it. And I saw it in action just this morning on the east side of Buffalo, when I showed up with Majority Leader Crystal Peoples-Stokes to help clean up broken glass in the street. One community coming together in a common cause. That gave me hope. Western New York has seen so much tremendous progress. We can make it even better, but only by working together and ensuring equal opportunity for all. Thank you very much, and I'll be happy to take any questions.
Okay, if anybody does have any questions, please message me in the chat box. We do actually have one question from Connor Hoffman from the Lockport Journal.
All right,
Connor,
Lieutenant Governor Kathy Hochul there addressing a couple of things. Of course, the unrest that's happening in our community and in other communities across the state and the country, and then also the fact that we are entering phase 2 of reopening. I want to bring back in Reverend Darius Pridgeon, Buffalo Common Council President, and I'm going to ask you in a second something that we have scheduled here, but just to do a bit of a detour, your thoughts to what the Lieutenant Governor said there first?
My thoughts?
Yes.
The Lieutenant Governor has been working very, very hard. I know that she is in charge right now of the response to COVID, but she has been working hard to just pull people together and to put a positive on two things that are very negative.
Reverend Pridgeon, last night I asked Mayor Byron Brown about some of the changes, specific changes, that are being called for by some of the protesters. And among those changes is a ban on chokeholds. There are police departments around the country that say their officers can simply not use them. They have been the cause of some of these deadly incidents. Today, the police chief for the San Diego Police Department announced he is banning chokeholds today. Listen to what he said.
When you look at something and something is getting people so angry that it's leading to confrontations, you have to weigh it. Is it worth having possible fatal encounters because of this? And the answer is no. So
he says allowing chokeholds is just not worth it when you look at the negative impacts of that. This is one of the 5 things that this local group has been calling for changes. Should Buffalo ban chokeholds?
You know, I haven't been educated yet on it, but I'll tell you this. To even have the conversation is important, but the conversation must lead to some type of transformation. So I have been very open throughout this entire situation, saying, bring it to me, bring it in writing. Let's look at the research. But anything that will keep people alive, I think is very important. You know, the council fought for the body cams. We do agree with other weapons other than lethal weapons. And so chokeholds are a problem. We need to examine it and eliminate it.
And Reverend, quickly, if I can ask you, you have been involved in civil rights action and social justice issues in the city for a long time. A lot of people on social media have been hearkening Dr. King and a lot of what he said about the riots really being the voice of a generation of people who have not been heard. Do you feel that these young people are really just unaware of how they need to approach leadership? I mean, once upon a time in Dr. King's day, there wasn't African-American leadership for him to go to help affect change. But here in 2020, we have a different scenario. Do you feel these young people are not aware of who to access or how?
Again, it goes back to education. And if they're not aware, then it's my fault. If it's not aware, it's my generation's fault. At the end of the day, and it's a great question because now I'm trying to educate. For instance, just last week on my radio show, I talked about how you put something through the council, those types of things. And I think that is so important to know. And I hear some feedback, so I'm trying to make sure that you can hear me. So it is important to educate the generation, and not only to educate them, but you must include so that they prepare to take over, so that when this generation moves on, my generation, they know that they need to be included right now. That's why I'm meeting with the organizers of protests and have no problem. That's why I even want to meet the police, because at the end of the day, it can't just be them and us, the us and them. It has to be us and getting to a place. It is about education on how to utilize the government system that's in place.
Well, we're going to stay in touch with you because we are anxious to see those young leaders move forward and the outcome here in the city of Buffalo that I think we all hope is really positive. Buffalo Common Council President Darius Pridgeon, always great to hear from you, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you all.
And don't go anywhere. After just a quick break, we're going to hear from one of those young community leaders. We'll be right back after this.